We're never afraid to talk about tough conversations on the show. And ending a marriage or a long-term relationship, that is never easy. But the right information can really change everything. Joining us now is Alyssa Bach, an associate from Shulman and Partners, to simplify what every couple should know before taking the next step, and that one big step. So good to see you again,
you as well.
Alyssa. I'm assuming you have these conversations all the time. A lot of them are in January. Why is January kind of known as divorce month?
I think January following the holidays is one of the major reasons why we see such a peak. A lot of people will stay together throughout the holidays, whether it's for the kids, avoiding conversations with family members that you just don't want to have. And also January is a season where people try and think about resolutions, restarting, and what didn't work last year. So we definitely see an influx at this time.
Let's get into some of these topics and some of the most common questions, starting with a formal separation agreement. Do you have to have that to proceed with a divorce?
No. So when you're proceeding with a divorce, really the most straightforward way is demonstrating 1 year of separation. So living separate and apart without reconciling. So you don't have to have a separation agreement in order to get the divorce.
Okay. When it comes to moving out, this is always a tricky one. Should I move out? Do I not move out? What do I do in that situation?
Now, this is one of those topics I would say go and get a consult, because what is correct for one person will be different for another person. Knowing the rights and obligations associated with the house, which could differ between jointly owned versus solely owned, any kinds of implications on parenting. So it's something that is going to be very factor specific. So definitely go and speak with a family lawyer, get a consult to make that decision.
Yeah, we got the third one that was on the board right there too, is who keeps the home? How does that work out?
And when we're looking at who's keeping it, and we're looking at also who's staying in it right at separation. And it's important to know that whether you're solely owned or jointly owned, both of you are entitled to possess that home after separation, meaning you can't just say, leave the house, it's mine. And the other thing is knowing that even if it is in a sole name, you can't just sell it out from under the other person or go and mortgage it without their consent until that separation is finalized.
Because you also hear too, if you leave the house, then your rights are going to be affected when it comes to the divorce settlement. Mm-hmm. Is there truth in that?
No. So your financial entitlements and your rights to possession are solidified by the separation. So that's not something that if you leave, you all of a sudden don't have any kind of financial rights to it anymore.
Okay, so then we get into the support. And how is all of that calculated? Because we're getting into the financial stuff here now, which is a big decision maker besides all the kid stuff too.
Mm-hmm. When we're looking at support, first thing, determining income. When you're a T4 employee, really straightforward.
Sure.
Self-employed, probably a little bit more complex. Now, once the income is determined for child support, government mandated. It's in the legislation. This is the income. This is the child arrangements. This is what the support will be. Spousal support is more of a legal argument. We have guidelines that suggest what the ranges should be, but somebody still has to show entitlement to figure out what that amount would be.
Okay, let's get into the amounts, because is this the one that you see the most, is about the cost? How much is this going to cost? Why do we need to get to a divorce? We're separated. Is that okay? What is the cost factor here?
Yeah, and when we're looking at a divorce, so the formal separation says you can get remarried. If you're not dealing with parenting issues, you're not dealing with property issues, probably in the range of $3,000 to get that divorce paperwork done. When we're looking at contentious issues around parenting, determination of property, that's when you get into litigation territory where you're looking at the range of $25,000 plus, depending on the level of animosity.
Okay, so we still have like about a minute and a bit here. We didn't really get into the kid stuff. What's the best way to kind of carve that path with kids involved in a divorce?
Yeah, I would say have a realistic conversation with your co-parent about what things will look like. Try and really take yourself out of the picture, because it can be really hard looking at somebody as a bad partner. They're not necessarily a bad parent. And when you think about your kids in the long term, you don't necessarily want to give that discretion to a judge to say, will you make this decision for us, right? Because you ultimately know your kids best, and keeping that level of control, I would say, is something that's normally important for people, and there's not a monetary value to that. So,
lastly, like, any suggestions for anybody watching? They're in that point, like, maybe the communication is never always the best. That might be one of the main issues. Suggestions for anybody?
I think as much as you can, try to take the emotions out of it. really
Is it possible?
Really, I
Yeah.
know I'm saying it sitting here,
Sure.
but as much as you can look at it 5 years down the road, what do I want things to look like? Because when you're in the moment, it's so hard to separate it. And some things like financials, right, property division, it should be straightforward. It should be, let's exchange disclosure, see what the numbers fall at. And so take kind of the reason why you're separating out of it and focus on, okay, what's going to make sense for our family in the long run.
Tough conversations, but important ones to have. Where can we find you?
You can look us up at shulman.ca.
Okay, good stuff. Thanks so much, Alyssa. Taking a break.